From the road less traveled to walking on eggshells, the evolution of boundaries and love. When M. Scott Peck published The Road Less Traveled in 1978, he transformed the landscape of modern psychology and self-help. His opening line, "Life is difficult," set the tone for a book that combined psychology, philosophy, and spirituality in an unprecedented way. Peck taught that emotional maturity requires discipline, responsibility, and a courageous confrontation with truth. 2 decades later, Paul Mason and Randi Kreger's Stop Walking on Eggshells, 1998, brought those principles into the intimate and often chaotic realm of relationships marked by borderline personality disorder, BPD. Though written for different audiences and with different aims, Eggshells stands as a direct descendant of Peck's moral psychology, a pragmatic manual for those trying to live out his ideals of love, boundaries, and self-respect in the face of emotional volatility. Peck's The Road Less Traveled argued that growth begins when we accept responsibility for our own feelings and choices. He insisted that love is not primarily a feeling, but the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. Love, in Peck's view, is inseparable from discipline. This idea finds an echo in Stop Walking on Eggshells, where Mason and Kreger guide readers, often the partners, parents, or children of someone with BPD, to stop taking responsibility for another person's chaos and start reclaiming their own sanity. Their core message is that genuine compassion must include limits. You cannot heal another by destroying yourself. In both books, love is reframed as a disciplined act of integrity, rather than a reflex of guilt or pity. Where Peck explored the inner life of the seeker, Mason and Kreger focus on the survivor. Eggshells addresses the bewildering experience of living with someone whose emotions fluctuate between idealization and rage, between intense attachment and sudden rejection. The book gives readers permission to prioritize emotional safety over appeasement, a concept that would fit perfectly within Peck's framework of truth-telling and personal responsibility. If Peck's reader is the person who must grow up, Kreger and Mason's reader is the one who must stop being consumed by another's refusal to grow. Both call for courage, the courage to face reality and to act from clarity instead of fear. A deeper connection emerges when we compare Stop Walking on Eggshells with Peck's later work, People of the Lie, 1983. There, Peck delves into the psychology of what he calls evil, a condition marked by self-deception and projection. Evil people, he writes, attack others instead of facing their own failures. In clinical terms, this mirrors the defense mechanisms of projection and splitting that define borderline personality disorder. Mason and Kreger describe how those with BPD often project their unbearable shame or self-loathing onto loved ones, casting them as villains or betrayers. Peck's People of the Lie and Eggshells' borderline dynamics both center on the destructive consequences of emotional immaturity and denial of truth. Peck saw evil as an absence of self-examination. Mason and Kreger see relational dysfunction as a refusal to take responsibility. Both are describing the same human wound, the terror of self-confrontation. Yet despite their grim subject matter, both books point toward transformation. Peck's Road Less Traveled demands that one face suffering head-on, using pain as the raw material for growth. Likewise, Stop Walking on Eggshells encourages readers to stop trying to fix or avoid emotional storms, and instead build resilience through boundaries and self-awareness. The parallel is unmistakable. Both works treat suffering as a teacher, not an enemy. The message is not to flee from difficulty, but to walk through it consciously. Both books also share a redemptive faith in the human spirit. Peck's belief in disciplined love as the highest form of growth finds a mirror in Eggshells' insistence that one can love a person with BPD without losing oneself. That delicate balance, compassion without codependence, empathy without martyrdom, is the mature love that both authors describe in different languages. Peck calls it grace, Kreger calls it healthy detachment. Both describe the same awakening, to love consciously rather than compulsively. In the end, Stop Walking on Eggshells is a testament to how far Peck's ideas traveled. It carries forward his call to truth, courage, and self-responsibility, but applies them to one of the most emotionally charged terrains imaginable: intimate relationships marked by instability and projection. Mason and Kreger show that even when love feels like walking on eggshells, the same principles apply. Growth still begins with honesty. Love still requires boundaries. And healing, as Peck wrote, always demands that we take the road less traveled.